Hey everybody, it's the Crypto-Anarchist here, and I'm bringing you guys another video on cryptocurrencies. Today's video is just a short addition to the last video I did on Vitalik Buterin and his article on decentralization. The reason why I wanted to do a short update is there's an additional point that I didn't get across in that video that I really think is very important. And that point is it's very simple, and that's because Casper works through punishing bad stakers. Uh, it really negatively affects the connectivity of the network in a way that you can't fix, and I'll explain why. But to better explain why, let's first look at a proof of work system. Again, let's just go back to this picture of what Bitcoin looks like. So in this picture in the bottom left of Bitcoin there, that's the complete graph. Each one of those dark black points is a miner, right? It's a full node miner. Well, I don't know if you guys know this, but if you're running a full node as a miner, you basically have your full node in a data center. And obviously most full node miners run mining pools, so they're not just connecting their own hash power, but they're connecting hash power for a bunch of different people. And so this is actually a massive benefit as far as connectivity times go, because if you're just connecting through your home computer, your connectivity times aren't necessarily that fast. Obviously, if you're in a data center, you can't get faster connectivity times than that, because data centers have the fastest connections of anyone. So by putting their full nodes within data centers, these miners, they're faster than anybody else, okay? So they've got the fastest connections in the world, and that's just the way it is. And then the other thing that's really good about mining pools is there's really no risk for a worker. That's what you call someone who mines Bitcoin but doesn't run a full node. You call them a worker. There's really no risk for a worker to run a pool. The only risk that you have is maybe the pool doesn't give you your payouts quickly enough, or it doesn't give you the correct amount of payouts, but they can't, if you're a worker, they can't take your miner because you have control of your miner the whole time. So if they're not giving you high enough payouts, or you think you're getting underpaid, you just move to another pool, and there's no negatives involved with that. But the issue though that happens with Casper is that Casper is, first off, it's a proof of stake protocol, and the first thing you got to know about proof of stake protocols is you have to have sort of control of the coins in order to start staking. So even getting a pool to operate in the first place on a proof of stake protocol is not the simplest thing to do, because you need to lock up your coins in order to do it. But that's not the big issue, because technically speaking, you could probably figure out some way to do a proof of stake pool. But so that's not the issue with Casper or the most proof of stake systems. The issue is that because Casper works off a punishment element, whereas proof of work, it only works off rewards. It's just a carrot. Casper instead uses a carrot and stick approach. But because there's penalties if a staker screws up, what that actually changes the incentives for a pool operator. So within Bitcoin mining, as a pool operator, in order to maximize your revenue, what you actually want to do is you want to make sure that you have the highest connectivity rates and you do everything honestly. And the reason for this is because you can't there's nothing negative you can do to the person's miners who you're operating. It's not like when you run a pool that you're actually giving your miners to the mining pool, because if you actually gave the miners to the mining pool, it might be the mining pool might be more incentivized just to destroy your miners, because then they would have more control over the total mining power. And that's the issue that you run into with this proof of stake thing, is because with proof of stake, since the stakers get punished if they screw up, if you're running a proof of stake pool, what you would want to do is you just take all your personal funds out of it, and then you screw up as much as you possibly can, and then you just waste everybody else's money. And the reason why you would do this is because if there are less people staking, then you will make more money through your own staking. Okay, and so that's the real main issue with proof of stake, and with using a strategy where you punish people. Okay, so you can't have pools, and if you can't have pools, you're just connecting using your average person's home computer, and that doesn't really work. And so you're going to have a slow network, and the only way that Casper can fix this is they can say, okay, if you want to be a staker, you have to have a fast enough connection. And obviously, the amount of money you have to put into running a full node at a data center, it's pretty high. So if they tried to match proof of work, then they would centralize staking just as much as they say proof of work is centralized, because there would be almost nobody who could do it. And since you can't use pools, you would have to have enough money yourself personally to run a node in a data center, and that's not something your average people can necessarily do, unless maybe you can do some sort of thing where you run them through virtual private servers or whatever. Maybe you could do that. I don't really know. But again, the issue here is mainly that you can't really run pools with proof of stake when you have a punishment that happens. Okay, you can't really do it, and that's the main issue that I have with it, is that pools are what makes the connectivity so much faster in Bitcoin, because your average person doesn't know how. They don't have the technical skills, and they don't have the money to ensure that they have super fast connections, but the pools do. Okay, and so in proof of stake, again, you can sort of approximate it. Maybe if you have virtual private servers running your nodes, you can be sort of somewhat close to as fast as proof of work, but you'll never be as fast. Okay, you can't be as fast, and the more that you try and speed up proof of stake, the more you centralize the staking process, and so it runs into the same issues as proof of work has, except I don't know, it's like proof of work just works naturally, and proof of stake, it's pretty unnatural. They have to force a lot of things down the throats of the users. And what I mean by that is they actually talk about in Casper, it's basically based upon social consensus. So with proof of stake, the one thing that terrifies me is that absolutely anyone, anywhere, anytime can have all their money taken if the majority of stakers want to. And they talk about that like it's a benefit, because they're like, what if someone 51% attacks? Well, then we'll take all their money away from them. And it's like, that might sort of make sense, but when you put that into a system where the stakers can just steal somebody's money, that's absolutely terrifying. I mean, that's complete tyranny. That's not decentralized. That's complete centralization of the coins in the control of the developers and the community. The developers, just because they choose who gets punished, why, and when, and how, and then the community, because if you want a hard fork and do some sort of thing where the social consensus just doesn't like a group of people, they'll completely steal from them. And I think this is again, like, the crypto community is incredibly left-wing, and there seems to be an incredible disdain for white people. And I've been saying this whole time, like, cryptocurrencies need to be pushing themselves towards white people, because white people, as of right now, they're the ones losing their freedoms faster than anybody else. They're also the largest market in the world. So it's a double whammy of perfection for cryptocurrencies. But something like proof of stake, which is said it's run by communists, and they've said on multiple times, the Ethereum developers they're pretty anti-white. I don't know why any white person would want to use that when white people are being censored all over the place, and then with proof of stake and Casper, they can just completely take all your money. It's just like when I made that video when I said, why the hell is Lauren Southern, why is she buying Ethereum when she's just going to get censored off the platform? Well, with Casper, they could steal all her money if they wanted to. And that's insane. That's completely insane. So again, not only is proof of stake slower, but your funds are always at risk if the social consensus turns against you. So you have to be a part of the majority to use proof of stake. Otherwise, you should be absolutely terrified. But anyways, that's the end of this video. So I hope that sort of explained why proof of stake, like the connectivity issues, that comes from the fact that Casper uses punishments. If you use punishments, you can't use pools. If you can't use pools, your connectivity times are always going to be slower, pretty significantly slower than proof of work. And the only way to change that is to try and force people to have high enough connectivity, or fast enough connectivity, in order to still run in the network. But if you do that, then you centralize the staking process, just like they say mining is centralized. So again, proof of stake, I don't think it can solve any of the problems it says it's going to solve, and then it's completely tyrannical, because if the majority turns against you, they can just simply reverse all of your money, because they don't have to do any work to reverse it. Okay, that's the thing that terrifies me, is that you're not safe if you use proof of stake. If you're a minority, you're not safe. And again, the people who are most at risk are white people. The Ethereum developers are kind of anti-white. Not necessarily Vitalik. I really have a lot of respect for Vitalik, but a lot of the people he brings in are not that great. And Vitalik's sort of leans towards anti-whiteness, but he's a pretty reasonable guy. So this isn't directed at him. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video. There will be more coming out soon.